All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are digging into something huge, basically the operating system for our entire planet. And you know what? It all boils down to a really simple choice. A choice between a straight line and a circle. So yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, so look at these two shapes, a line and a circle. I mean, they couldn't be more different, right? The line is just a one-way street, a trip from point A to point B, and that's it. Journey's over. But the circle, that's a whole different story. It's a continuous loop, a cycle of rebirth and regeneration. Pretty straightforward, you think. But what if I told you that our whole global society, everything we've built, has basically bet the farm on the line, and that this one simple choice is pretty much the root cause of our biggest, scariest environmental problems? Yeah, let's unpack how that happened. So for the last, couple of hundred years or so, we've been running the world on what's called a linear model. It's exactly what it sounds like, a straight line that goes from digging stuff up to throwing it away. You'll hear it called the take, make, waste pipeline. Now, this is what's known as an open-loop system. Think about it. We take resources from the planet, we make them into products we want, and then, when we're done with them, we just throw them away. There's no step two. There's no plan for what happens next. It is literally a one-way ticket straight to the landfill. A total dead end. And this line thinking, it applies to pretty much everything we buy. Every single thing has a hidden cost to the environment. To make this super clear, let's just zoom in on one thing, something I bet almost all of you own, a basic cotton t-shirt. Get ready for this number, 4,100 liters. That is the embodied water, all the invisible water that gets used up from the cotton field to the factory just to make one t-shirt. That's insane, right? It's a perfect, kind of shocking example of this massive unseen drain on our resources that's happening all the time in our linear world. Okay, so now imagine taking that take more mindset and scaling it up. Not just for one person, but for a whole planet of people. What happens then? Well, you run headfirst into a classic problem called the tragedy of the commons. So here's how that works. Imagine you have a resource that everyone shares, like, our air or our oceans. If everyone just acts in their own self-interest, taking what they want without thinking about the long term, that shared resource is eventually going to collapse. It's the logical and really dangerous endgame of playing out this linear system on a global scale. And you better believe the pressure on those shared resources is ramping up. Just look at the population spike. Back in 1950, there were about 359 million people on Earth. Today, we're talking over 8 billion. And yeah, our consumption has shot up right along with that. As it stands, we are currently using up the Earth's resources 1.5 times faster than the planet can naturally renew them. I mean, just let that sink in for a sec. We are living in a state of ecological overdraft. And guess what else has spiked? Our waste. Atmospheric CO2, which is basically the main exhaust pipe of our linear economy, is now over 420 parts per million. Those are levels we have never, ever seen in the entire history of humanity. And the ultimate tragedy here? The extinction spike. As we keep taking more land for our resources and polluting habitats with all our waste, we're pushing other species into extinction at a rate that's up to 10,000 times faster than the natural background rate. I know, it's a pretty grim picture, but here's the thing. What if the solution isn't some brand new sci-fi invention? What if it's about rediscovering a design principle that has been successfully running this planet for, billions of years? It's time we took a serious look at nature's own operating system. This one idea, this is the whole foundation. In nature, there's no such thing as waste. It just doesn't exist. Every single output from one thing becomes an input for something else. A leaf falls off a tree and becomes soil. What a predator leaves behind feeds the scavengers. It's a perfect system. This is a circular or a closed-loop system. So unlike that one-way dead-end street we talked about, this is a system where materials are constantly kept in use. Waste isn't just managed at the end, it's designed out of the system from the very beginning. It's regenerative by its very nature. Okay, so the big question is, how do we take this incredibly elegant natural logic and apply it to our messy, complex human world? Well, it means we have to stop thinking about just managing our waste and start thinking about designing systems where waste isn't even created in the first place. Check out this example. A simple kind of linear system might take food waste and just compost it, okay? That's one input, one output. Fine. But a complex, circular system, it sees that same food waste as a valuable resource. Maybe some of it feeds a cow, which gives us milk. The cow's manure then goes into a biogas plant, creating energy. The leftover slurry from the plant becomes fertilizer for crops. See? You're not just getting rid of waste, you're creating tons of value. And look, this kind of systems thinking goes way beyond just your kitchen scraps. It's the same logic behind big ideas like watershed management, where you stop treating rain as a problem to be drained away as fast as possible and start seeing it as a resource to slow down, capture, and absorb into the landscape. It's also the whole basis for something called industrial ecology, where, say, the waste heat from one factory becomes the energy source for the factory next door. You know, a really key principle in circular design is to always use a resource for its highest possible value first. So take something like dry biomass, like leftover stalks from a farm. Before you just burn it for cheap energy, you ask, wait, could this be high-value animal feed? Could it be mulch to make the soil healthier? You let it cascade down the value chain, squeezing out the maximum benefit at every single step. So I know this all sounds really big and systemic, right? But it brings us to a super important question. Where do we fit into all this? What's our role in helping make this huge shift from a line to a circle? This is where our role completely changes. See, in that old linear system, the best any of us can really do is try to be less bad. Consume a little less, maybe recycle a bit more. But in a circular system, we're not just consumers anymore. We become active participants. We're the ones demanding products that are actually designed to be reused. We're the ones supporting businesses that are closing their own loops. We start designing our own homes and our own lives to be way less wasteful and way more regenerative. And really, that's the big takeaway here. We are not just helpless consumers stuck inside a broken system. Not at all. Through the choices we make every day, the things we demand from companies, and just the way we think, we are all designers of the world that's coming next. So the question really isn't just what will you consume anymore. The real question is, what will you help create?